Hey guys, welcome to this week's CRG hardware video where we're looking at the Amiga CD32. This was Commodore's attempt to enter the console market in September of '93, but very quickly discontinued in April of '94 when Commodore themselves went bankrupt. It's essentially an Amiga 1200 with the floppy drive removed and all the expansion ports removed on the back. Instead they slapped on a 2-speed CD drive and there's a special wee chip in here called a Pico, which is supposed to help with chunky to planar conversion to allow this thing to run those Doom type games. It unfortunately doesn't quite get there though in its standard offering. The side of the machine has our joystick ports, and the rear only features the TV output and power connections. This bit though is what we're interested in today. This was the expansion port, initially used for only an FMV cartridge to allow this thing to play back video CDs. There was then the SX1 expansion developed for the CD32, which added back the ports that were missing from the Amiga 1200, and it also gave you an IDE header and up to 8 megabytes of RAM. There was then the SX32 expansion, which was an internal, which offered up to a 50 MHz 030 processor and 64 megabytes of RAM. Well, that's in the SX32 Pro version. The standard SX32 was just the same as the SX1, but inside. So, what are your options for expanding a CD32 in 2019? Well, you can jump on eBay, and if you've got extremely deep pockets, you can pick up an SX1 for around €300 currently. Or if you've got even deeper pockets, you could pick up an SX32 Pro. There's one on eBay right now. €2,000, anybody? I think I'll pass. But now we have other options available to us, mostly thanks to the work by the Amiga community, and in particular, Terrible Fire. Because this is the TF328, and for all intents and purposes, this is an SX1. Okay, you don't have all the fancy expansion ports, but who needs a printer port on a games console? This adds 8 megabytes of fast RAM and an IDE header. Brilliant! We can play WSD load games. You can have full Amiga library on your CD32 right in front of your TV. The perfect Amiga gaming experience. Well, it would be, but there are some of those Amiga games out there that still struggle a wee bit to run on the standard CD32, even with an additional 8 mega of fast RAM. But that's where this beautiful little board comes into play. This, my friends, is the Terrible Fire TF330. And this, for all intents and purposes, is an SX32 Pro. That's right. This £118 card provides you the same functionality, more or less, as a £2,000 expansion. Yes, again, we don't get those stupid ports, but who needs a floppy drive interface on a games console in 2019? This card features 64 megabytes of RAM and the 030 processor running at 50 MHz. So today what we're going to do is we're going to run some games on the CD32. We're going to show you them side by side, running on the standard machine, running with the TF328 and with the TF330. So let's get over to the capture device and get started. Okay, the first game we're looking at today is Glut. This is the original release and we're booting this from CD. So left to right we have the standard CD32, then the TF328 and then the TF330. So hopefully you can see here that the standard CD32, while being able to play the game full screen like this, it is a little bit stuttery. The TF328 does sort it out and it is very playable on the 328. But the TF330 just makes it super smooth.
It actually also makes the game easier to play, which means I'm running through the first level here on the TF330 fairly simply and very quickly. Just smooths out everything, smooths out the controls, makes it easier to aim for enemies. Just a far better playing experience. The TF328 is not far behind now, and it is very playable on that card, so don't get me wrong. But on the standard CD32, the way I played it back in the day when this machine was new, well, I suppose I just didn't know what I was missing. But it is considerably harder, just because of the lower frame rate. Okay, the next game we're going to look at is Asgardian, one of my favourite games on the CD32, and one of the first games we reviewed here back on Casual Retro Gamer. So this intro sequence here is rendered in game, and already you can start to see the accelerator, the 330, starting to pull ahead. In fact, in this scene here, you can see how the 330 just powers through it, not dropping any frames whatsoever. The 328 does try its very best with its 8 mega fast RAM, and it is getting through, albeit it does stutter a wee bit in the middle. There's it picking up now. But the standard CD32, with all the enemies on screen at once there, is really struggling, and only starts to pick up at the very end. Then just a wee bit of gameplay like before. So much like in Gloom, the accelerator really helps here and just makes the game super smooth, easy to control. The 328 on its own does do a good job in making this game more playable, but there still is issues with frame drops, especially when the screen gets very busy with lots of enemies at once. The standard CD32 does get to a bit of a slideshow at times, but it is how I played it back in the day, and I am actually used to it like this. In fact, while recording the footage for this, I was able to beat the first level quickest with the standard CD32, but whatever. In terms of pure performance, the 330 definitely provides the smoothest experience. Okay, the next game we're looking at is Fears. Another FPS on the CD32. This one's a wee bit different from Gloom though, in that it adds height to the map. So it's a bit more like Doom. But as you can see, the standard CD32 is really struggling here with this one. And we're down to what's probably single figure frames per second. The TF328 is doing a better job, but in larger open areas, it still really drops those frames. Now you can reduce the size of the screen and even turn off some of the textures to help with this. But looking at the TF330 full screen, all the textures, we're getting a solid FPS and the game is very playable. The next game we're looking at is Frontier Elite 2. And what would any Amiga hardware performance review be without watching the intro of Frontier? So already you can maybe see the stock CD32 on the top left there is starting to drop a couple of frames compared to the other two. Just adding the 8 meg of fast RAM with the 328 really does help the performance of this game. But the 330 there with the 50 MHz 030, it's just another experience altogether. You'll see it here more so on the landing for this planet. Perfectly silky smooth on the 330. The 328 isn't that far behind, but you can see it stuttering a bit. And the stock CD32, well, it's not exactly the slideshow you can see on an Amiga 500, but it isn't far behind. This section coming up here with the flyby on the space station really shows off the difference in performance. You'll see, notice the CD32 dropping quite a few frames. The 328 drops the odd one, but the 330 perfectly smooth going through it. Right, this time I thought we'd have a look at a demo. This demo is Brain Cell by Union, and it is an AGA demo. In fact, I first seen this on my CD32. It came on a CD32 Gamer cover disc. Actually, while recording this, I couldn't tell much of a difference, and I didn't think if you'd be able to see much of a difference, but looking at them side by side now, it is actually quite startling the difference the 330 makes. The CD32 and the 328 are fairly close to each other. The 328 just does pull ahead ever so slightly in terms of smoothness, but the 330, wow, it's just silky smooth. This section here, you can actually see it quite well. The 330 is rendering through this very quickly. The 328, sort of in between, and the stock CD32 is taking its time. The further this goes, actually, you can start to see the CD32 lagging behind the other two now. Even the 328 is starting to lag behind the 330. Notice here the corruption on the screen on the standard CD32. I have no idea why that is. Maybe if anyone has any suggestions why I am getting corruption there like that, you could drop something below in the comment section. And the last thing we're going to do today then is run sysinfo. Just to test what speed we're getting from each of these cards. So there we have it, the TF328 gives you 2.93 MIPS, or 2.31 times the speed of a standard A1200, which presumably is the same speed as a standard CD32. And the TF330 is giving us a fairly respectable 7.88 MIPS, or 6.2 times the speed of a standard A1200. Just notice here doing the disc test that the 330 actually lags behind the 328 ever so slightly, and it is using exactly the same CF card and exactly the same IDE adapter.
Well, there we are guys, the Terrible Fire 328 and the Terrible Fire 330. I'll let you make your mind up which one you think would be best suited for your needs with your CD32. At the very least, I do highly recommend the 328, but as you've seen in the videos, the 330 just makes that extra wee bit of difference in most of the games. The likes of Asgardian there was silky smooth with the 330. Making it one of my favourite games on the CD32. Even the likes of Glut ran considerably better on the 330. So, up to you. This one comes in at around £80 with the riser card. This one is around £150 with the riser card, or as I said earlier, 118 on its own. This is the riser card that you'll need. Goes from the expansion bus on the back of the CD32. Just basically extends that up so you can stick this card in, back inside the machine. These risers add an RGB out and a PS2 port that you can use for plugging in a keyboard. Well, that's all I wanted to show you today. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that thumbs up and please consider subscribing, as it all really does help the channel. You can join me every Wednesday for CRG Plays, where we have a look at some gameplay, and then every Saturday when we're back with more hardware. Until then guys, thanks for watching.